Hello everyone! It's good to be back, and just in time because the long-fabled Atari box is finally upon us. They're now calling it the Atari VCS, but VCS, Atari box, it's the same damn thing. Now we got a ton of stuff to cover, so we're going to dive right into it. We're not even going to spend a lot of time on the pitch video because there's not a lot of information there. All they talk about is the aesthetics of the case and how this is a new Atari, but they don't go into the specs, and their pitch leans a lot on the history of Atari, which they have no connection to. I'm sure most of you know, but it is worth repeating, this is not the same Atari that existed back in the 70s. That company has been dead for decades. This company on Indiegogo bought the name in 2014 after the last bankruptcy. But since they think history is so important in that pitch video, I'm sure they won't mind if I dig into Atari's history under their ownership. I wonder if we might find a pattern of behavior in there, maybe? Well, we shouldn't worry too much, because here's the important takeaway from that pitch video.
We feel strongly that a product like this deserves a little more thought, a little more effort, and a little more heart.
I'm sure they believe that, which is why in 2014 after the acquisition, they immediately got to work whoring out the name to slot machines and working on new game consoles. Ah, yes, did you know the VCS is not their first attempt to get back into the hardware business? For that, we go back to E3 2014. Again, this is only months after they acquired the name. They had a booth where they were showing off handhelds, tablets, and phones, all of them with the Atari brand stamped on them. Now get this, I remember when this happened. I saw this pop up on a gaming forum I was a part of. You would think that would get a lot of news, Atari's back. But again, as someone who remembers this happening, I could tell you it wasn't big news. Commodore was trying to get back into the market with phones as well at this time. So Atari was just another dead brand trying to find an in back then, and rebranding Chinese crapware as a shortcut. So let's see what we got here. We have the ATP 700, the ATP 500, that's the 700 again, the ATT1, the ATT2, the ATT3, the ATU7,
lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp,
the ATM723G, the ATM652, the ATP6, and the ATU5. To the lone person in the comments, I could not agree more. So, guess how many made it to the market? And the answer is 3! Lemon, coconut, and pepper shrimp. None of the Atari branded units made it to retail. Why, you ask? I don't know, beats the fuck out of me. I can't find any word from Atari about what happened. You could barely find any info about this today. I could only find one website that had photographs of their presence at E3 2014. And remember, this is only 4 years ago. But I'm glad someone chose to preserve Atari's history, because rebranding Chinese tablets, that is a prime example of
a little more thought, a little more effort, and a little more heart.
And our next piece of Atari history comes from when they partnered with Gameband. I'm sure you know about it because I covered it last year. I think at that point Atari was still a little experimental when it came to crowdfunding. So while technically it wasn't their campaign, their brand was featured front and center. There were several versions of Gameband to choose from, but Atari was definitely promoted more than the others. And on the campaign page, it even says Atari are working with us to bring it to your wrist. So, what's going on with Gameband now? Well, that's a good question because after many delays and a lot of silence, the backers are trying to figure out as well. So, somebody asked Atari about it on their Facebook page and Atari replied, "Gameband was never our product and we are no longer associated with it. The license has been revoked." Now the backers are understandably furious because first off, why are they getting this news in a Facebook reply instead of an update from either company? And 2, how is this the smartwatch for gamers if it's going to have no games on it? Maybe it'll still have Terraria, but you'll need to plug it into a PC to play that. And I guess they could make a clone of Pong, that thing's been cloned to death. But the real draw here was Atari, and the backers confirmed that. So even though the campaign itself belonged to Fergal Mac, I still say Atari owes an update to their backers that they lured into this campaign. They have no reason not to, they're obviously not under an NDA if they're commenting about it on Facebook. But nope, they just cut and run from the Gameband campaign that they were allegedly working with at one time. In fact, they ditched it so fast that I don't even know if they're aware of this. The Gameband Atari Edition is still available for pre-order on Indiegogo. Yes, it is still up there. On the same website where people are ordering their VCS, you can order another Atari product that they already confirmed will never exist. So apparently things are not going well between Atari and Fergal Mac, the creator of Gameband. This is surprising because they were closer than you think. Last year when Atari Box was announced, Fergal was in charge of it. He was even credited as its creator. And this was just last year. They were apparently happy enough with his work on Gameband, and he was very involved with a lot of the early Atari box marketing. And now he's just disappeared. Nobody's heard from him. It's a weird feeling to see somebody disappear from a project like that. It's like when Stalin used to airbrush out his BFFs after he killed them. Fergal has been erased from Atari history. He never existed. If that's true that he's really the creator of Atari Box and now he's being cut out, that's really messed up. But then again, he can only blame himself. As they say, no honor among thieves. And our next landmark in Atari's history is when they tried to fund a Switch port for Rollercoaster Tycoon 3. Let's see how that's going. I'm sure it's a wild success. Wait, what the hell? Well, that's not too surprising. Their campaign wasn't doing very well. They only pulled in about 50,000. And rather than give any explanation, they just killed the page and swept the campaign under the rug. So, what did we learn from our little history lesson about Atari 2014 to the present? Well, we learned that when Atari begins a project and things start to go wrong, Atari likes to cut and run. Rebranding Chinese Android devices didn't fly? Oh well, just don't mention them ever again. No one wants to give us money to port an old Rollercoaster Tycoon game? Nuke it from orbit. A company we're working with is in severe trouble? I know how to fix it. Revoke the license and excommunicate the project creator. Oh wait, he's our project creator too? Gee, I have solution, comrade. Now, I don't predict that they're gonna fail. If the amount they raised is correct, then they should be able to deliver. Should. But should is one of the most dangerous words in crowdfunding. There are many campaigns that should have delivered, but they hit a snag and that got in the way of should. What I am predicting is that this is a campaign that is going to have a lot of problems communicating with their backers. You need to find a project creator who can tell you the facts and give you meaningful updates when things are going well and when things are going bad. I don't expect you're going to find that with Atari based on their past experience and with the present. This is a company that chooses silence over information, that doesn't believe they should bear any responsibility for what they attach their name to. They like to sweep things under the rug, and these are all the hallmarks of a creator that abandons their backers when the wire gets too hot. And the less information they give you now, the more surprises you're going to find later. In fact, they were already caught in a lie. They claim to be testing Tempest 4000, which you would assume is running on Linux since it's a Linux-based game console. But there was a little problem with that. Llamasoft came forward and said they were not informed that the game was going to be on Atari VCS. They have very little information as to what the VCS runs on, and even then, there is no Linux binary for Tempest 4000. After being called out, Atari came clean and admitted they were showing the Windows version. So wait a second, they faked video footage using a different operating system in order to take advantage of other people's trust for their own gain. Hey Atari, I found your perfect spokesman, he knows all about doing that. And Atari says we're fucking idiots. We should have known this all along because saying the words, "for illustration purposes only," is a license to leave out important facts people have been asking since day one. These are the type of updates they want to give, where you have to decipher what they actually meant. And you know, they actually pretend like it's a wonder that people are scrutinizing their campaign. Gee, what else is on the front page that we're not understanding correctly? Are they only gonna fess up after we catch them in another embarrassing lie? One that was lurking on the front page of their campaign in plain sight for the entire first week? Well, we'll get back to that. Before we do, let's get back to that prototype. It's pretty clear now that they don't have anything that most of us would consider to be a prototype. But it's so odd that they made this an issue because they never needed one in the first place. They're on Indiegogo, and there's only two reasons why creators choose that over Kickstarter. The first is because the Chinese government will execute you if you go to Kickstarter, which in that case, carry on. Or two, you don't have a prototype. But Atari released several pieces of footage which heavily imply that they have one. Oh hey guys, here's our controller in action. Now let me just pan across the room and make sure to show our console's case which has the big glowing power button on it. This is my own speculation, but I feel that they deliberately alluded to having a prototype and they wanted to see how far they could go with it. I think the Tempest 4000 drama caught them by surprise, but launching the campaign on Indiegogo was their insurance in case that happened. So that if they were caught, they wouldn't have their campaign suspended because they didn't need one to begin with. They're on Indiegogo because if they were on Kickstarter, they'd have been thrown off the site by now. And having that happen is an embarrassment that I don't think the Atari brand could recover from. So what are they using as a prototype? Well, here's the thing, I don't think there is one Atari prototype right now. I think they're using a variety of devices. They're just using whichever one will do at that particular moment. Do you need a Windows PC? Great, that'll be the Atari VCS prototype today. Do you need gameplay capture to superimpose on an HD TV? That's the VCS prototype. So what is their prototype? Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to convince people they have running hardware. It could even be someone else's game console. Ooh, let's dig into this. I think some of you might already own an Atari VCS prototype and you just don't know it yet. You might be watching this video on it. Alright, so check out this photo that's on the front page of their campaign. You'll see what looks like a VCS controller, but it's horribly photoshopped. This same picture also appears at the very bottom of the campaign page. So they've got this mystery controller on their front page, but Atari got a little sloppy. So during the first week of their campaign, they actually had the unaltered pic at the very bottom. Of course you could see they caught their mistake and they scrubbed the original photo off the page. But not before I saved a copy. And here it is. What you see is an Xbox One controller with a red left analog stick, and a piece of electrical tape covering the Xbox branding. You can also tell that's an Xbox One controller because whoever did the Photoshop doesn't understand that the Atari VCS only has an audio jack at the bottom. And in the background, you can see they're playing the arcade version of Centipede, and it's in the configuration that you would see on the Flashback Classics Volume 1, which did release on Xbox. We know by now that there's nothing in that VCS shell, that's just a ruse. But I think they're trying to use an Xbox One as their prototype for this photo shoot. Of course we weren't there, and that game collection was also released on PC, which we already confirmed they were trying to pass off as the prototype as well. So it is possible that they're using a PC again to feed a video signal into the TV. But let's walk ourselves through that scenario and see if it makes any sense. The first strike against that is that we know they use third-party controllers when they're on PC, so why not use one of those that people don't have a problem with, and that you don't have to Photoshop? But here's another possible explanation. What if the controller isn't even connected? What if it's just there for illustration purposes only? I mean, if you squint just hard enough, it does start to look like an Xbox One controller. But that doesn't hold water either. Because why would they ever need a stand-in when they already have a physical mock-up? They even have pictures on the same page with someone holding it. It doesn't make any sense. Again, why go through all this hassle when you already have a perfectly adequate representation of your own design? So let me give you an explanation that does make sense. They're disguising Xbox hardware on their front page because they don't want you to find out they're using Xbox hardware. On that day, they needed to show kids playing classic Atari games on the couch, whatever it takes, and an Xbox One with the Atari Classics collection fit the bill. And now other things start to make sense as well.
Atari on.
Gee, I wonder where they got that idea. Oh wait, you know what, Atari? I can help you guys out here. Another company's game console was depicted for illustrative purposes only. There you go, you're all set, guys. So, things are not what they seem to be over at Atari. Well, I totally get it if you don't want to pre-order the VCS, but you could still pre-order Atari's other console. Wait, Atari didn't tell you? Oh my word! Well, they have been a little busy lately, so I'll pick up the slack. Allow me to introduce you to the Atari Retro. Whoa, Atari, cool down with all those creative names. We've got the Atari Box, the Atari VCS, the Atari Retro. That think tank must be pulling overtime. So does the Atari Retro have a working prototype? Fuck that noise. This thing doesn't even have 3D renders. This is true retro engineering, 2D all the way. I shit you not, the closest thing they have to a 3D render is the box. I swear, I don't even think these were made in Photoshop, it had to be MS Paint. But there is one part that's definitely real. The coin! Because of course when you're making a game console, the most important thing to start off with is the collectible tchotchkes that come with it. The most baffling thing about the Atari Retro is that there's no reason for it to exist. These are not the arcade ports, they're the 2600 versions of these games. And the Flashback Portable has been doing that for years. Why do we need another handheld that does the same thing? Also, why does the Atari Retro have 50 games, but the original Flashback Portable had 70? It's clearly a downgrade. And yes, you could pre-order this today. This is an active pre-order campaign. You can fork over your money now, just like with the Atari VCS. Please tell me you see what's happening here. Atari has so many fucking pre-order scams going on, they're losing track of them. They don't know when one ends and the next one begins. Oh, and if you imagine Atari treats their backers like royalty, then you better fucking think again. These backers have been waiting since last year. The device was announced in September and they said it would release in just 2 months in November. Then that turned into a 4-month delay to February 23rd, then June 15th, and now it just says sometime in August. It's getting close to a year-long delay and the backers have not even seen a working prototype. And remember, they're not the only ones who put their money up front for an Atari scheme. Go ask the Gameband backers, go see how Atari treats those fans. After they're holding your money, you are shit to them. You are not even worth updating. And so I hope you'll join me as we welcome the Atari Retro into this noble legacy its current owners are undoubtedly sowing for this once great company. That is, unless Atari decides to cut and run. Thank you for watching, guys. I will see you next time.